Okay, hello. This video is a training video for web editors within the Watts College for our new Drupal 9 Webspark 2 system. So this is going to just be essential editing tips, and so let's dive in. First, we'll need to log in. We have our sign in link up at the top right, so I'm going to click that. I'll sign in with my ASU Right credentials. And now I'm logged into the site. For those of us who have been web editors in Drupal 7, you will probably notice that things look a little bit different. We've got our notification that we've successfully signed in, which is the same, but the administration bar is different. Now, depending on which permission role you have, you might have fewer options up here than I do as an admin, but this bar is different from the one we were using in Drupal 7. But it has a lot of the same stuff. So if you want to edit the content on your site, you'll go to Content, and this will take you to the Content Overview page, where you can see all of the content on the page. This is pretty similar to how it looked in Drupal 7. You can click on an item and that will take you to that item. You can click on edit to edit it. There's a few other options. You can delete it, which I don't recommend usually. You can see what the content type was, whether it's published or not, and when it was last updated. And then a nice thing is that there's this back to site button that will take you, I think, back to the page you were on before you went into the content area. So that's a nice thing. One of the biggest differences that we have between our website setup in Drupal 7 versus Drupal 9 is that Drupal 9 is using something called Layout Builder, and we were using something called Panelizer in Drupal 7. But Layout Builder was built basically to replace Panelizer, and so we're using that. And if you would like to see how that works, I'll show you. So you'll notice in this area up here, these are the tabs that were in Drupal 7. We have our View tab, we have an Edit tab, a Delete tab, and then we have a Revisions tab, but now we have a Layout tab, which is new. In Drupal 7 with Panelizer, we had something down at the bottom that was a black bar that said customize this page or change layout. That is no longer available in this new system. Instead, we have the layout button. So the edit tab works very similar to how it did in Drupal 7. So I'll click on that. And you can see the interface. We have the title, fields that you can add, categories, and then there's the body field, which is the main field that is usually editable from the Edit tab. And then we have kind of some metadata. We have menu settings here. We have our URL alias. As you can see in the address bar, the actual URL of any page is node and then a number, but then we generate aliases, and those are more human readable. And so this is where you would set that alias. We have some rules set up to automatically generate the aliases. If for some reason you might need to change it, you can uncheck this box and change it. There's also URL redirects where you can add a redirect to the current page, and if you change the alias, it should automatically create a new redirect from the old alias, which is nice. So, and then there's also revision information. This box should be checked by default so that anytime you make an edit, a new revision is made, and then we can roll back to previous versions by clicking on the revisions tab up at the top. So that's the edit tab. We'll go back to view. And so we can see, on this page, it's not really readily available what's in the body field. In fact, I don't think we're even using the body field on this page. I think it's being hidden. So if you click on edit and you're like, how do I edit this page? Well, you would not click on edit. You would click on layout. And so we're going to click layout, and this will hopefully look a little bit similar to what it looked like in Drupal 7 with Panelizer. We've got some regions which have been named sections. So we have sections in this layout builder, and then within the sections are blocks. And so we've got a section with a block, and you can configure each section. So this section is just named section 1. You can name it something else if you want, just to keep things more organized, I guess. And then you can add another block within this section if you want to. And then over here on the right, always in the top right, there's going to be a little edit button with the pencil icon, and you can click that, and then you can click configure, and in the lower right corner of your screen you should get a form that pops up, and this is the configuration form for that block. So this block is a hero image, and each block that we add is required to have a title. This is usually an internal title that helps us find things on the back end. Sometimes, well, most of the time it's not displayed, but you can check this box that says display title, and then it will show the title to the end users. But most of the time we don't want it displayed. Sometimes we do. So by default it's not checked. And then there's options like what size of a hero image we want, and what the heading is, background colors, some text, subheading, background color for the subheading, and then we have a media section, which is where you will upload or select images that you want to add. And then there's call to action. So on here, CTA stands for call to action, and that usually means button. And so we can add up to 2 call to actions on a hero. And so we have one, and it looks like there's a mistake there, so I'm going to fix that. So we have the URL, and this is what's called a relative URL, starting with a /, which basically represents the domain. And then, so this domain would be, on this development site, it's this part of the URL, https://dev-asu-watts.ws.asu.edu. That's our domain. And then everything after that is what we could put here for a relative URL. You can also put a fully qualified URL, but usually we do that for external sites, and for internal pages we often just shorten it by doing a relative one. And then there's the link text. We can say where we want it to go. The web standards are usually to have it open in the current window. We don't really recommend having links open in new windows very often. And most people don't ever use parent or top. So I would just keep the target as either none or self. And then the style, we have two styles, gold or maroon for the buttons. You can add another call to action. And then there's a section called appearance settings, and we can add spacing to this block. We can have positive spacing or negative spacing if we want to remove spacing above or below the block. And then you can click update, and that will update this this block in the layout. And then similar to what we did before, it won't commit these changes to the database until you click save down here at the bottom, similar to how it was in Panelizer in Drupal 7. So that's how to edit this particular block. But if we want to add a block, we would just click on this blue bar, and this would open up again in the lower right a dialog box that shows different blocks that we can add. Some of these you may not have access to because we're going to limit some of that just to make it easier for our editors and also to keep the site from breaking. But the ones that are the most important are called custom blocks. And if you click create custom block, there's a lot of pre-configured blocks that we can add. That's where we got the hero image. It's a pre-configured block that was developed by the University Technology Office. We can add an accordion. We can add block quotes. Some of these are named, the names on these aren't super descriptive, and you may not know what that means. And instead of going through a lot of trial and error with that, for now, the best way to make sure of what you're choosing is to go to unity.web.asu.edu and look in the Unity Design Kit. This is the kind of the Bible of our design, of our web standards design. You should be very familiar with this if you're editing any websites. So bookmark it, please, unity.web.asu.edu, and then it's the Unity Design System. This is literally our brand standards for the web. You can click on this hamburger menu over on the left, and it'll show you different things. You can look at the information about hero images. There's 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, and this gives you an idea of what they'll look like. Some of these have placeholder images. Some of them just have this kind of blank placeholder image. And then on the right, it shows exactly what the brand standard is, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And I will point out, because this was a confusion point for me, a lot of the stuff that's the custom blocks is down in miscellaneous. So here we have card and image, which would correspond with card and image right here. So if I want to know what this card and image looks like, I can go into this design kit and see, okay, this has an image, and then on card on top of it, we can have an icon, but it's not required. We have a title, we have a blurb, and then we have a call to action. It also shows how it will look on mobile. There's quote on image background. You know, you can see what all of these will look like. I've put in a ticket with UTO to have some kind of visual representation within this interface to make it easier for our editors to know what they're choosing. But for now, the best option is to just look in the design kit. And frankly, you should be familiar with the design kit anyway if you're editing the website. So please look through the design kit, become familiar with what's in it, and that will help you immensely as you're editing or adding content to the site. Some of these are a little more tricky to configure than others, and we're not going to go into a lot of depth with that, but I just wanted you to be aware that that's an area that's not super obvious to find, is this create custom block. And that's where a lot of the elements that are on this page came from. Like this is one of those card and image options. I honestly can't remember which one it is, but I could look in the design kit, and eventually I'll get these memorized, and hopefully they'll put, you know, visual representations. But if I click configure, you can see this form, and this is how we built out this element. And the same goes for a lot of these. This carousel was built the same way, and sometimes you may notice that this little pencil icon doesn't show up, but if you scroll down and then scroll back up, usually it'll show up. So that's a little trick, but it should usually show up in the top right of any block. And so that's how you would edit a page. Let's go to a different page just to give one more point of data for you. I'm gonna discard the changes because I don't think I made any important changes while I've been in there, and I don't want to accidentally save something. So let's go to a more generic page. Let's go to affording college. Okay, so again, we've got a hero, but this one is a small hero. Probably my recommendation would be to check layout first instead of edit, because a lot of times the body field is included in the layout. Like this one should be the body field. Okay, so we know this is the body field. We can't edit the body field here. So at that point, we would go into edit to edit the contents of this block, because this block contains the body field. And everything within this block is editable from within the body field. You'll notice down here there's a placeholder for the categories field. And you can only really tell that that's not part of the body field when you hover over it, and especially if you hover over the pencil, it shows an outline of the block itself. So this is a separate block within that section, just like this one, featured image field. So if this page had an image placed in the featured image section, it would appear here. But because it doesn't, it's just got a placeholder in the interface. We've got our menu here and a couple of buttons here. These are custom text block that we added. And that's a pretty common thing that we do. Text content, you'll notice for these, if you want to add a button, probably the easiest way would be to type something, select it, and then this icon means button. And then it opens a dialog and it will ask you for the URL. So I'm going to put asu.edu, okay, and that creates a button for me. If you want to delete it, you just select it and hit delete on your keyboard. If you want to, if you're a little bit more of a power user, you can view the source by clicking source, and that will show you this. If you make changes here, you must click source again so that it renders the HTML, or it will not save your changes. I found that out the hard way. But there are a few other options here in the toolbar. You can add this little divider, which can be nice. You can add you can add multiple columns. This is kind of we prefer to do columns instead of tables because they're more friendly with mobile design, but we do have a table tool as well, but you can add columned areas with this tool. You can add a table if you want. You can add a heading with highlighting. And you can choose the level of the heading. Please be aware of your levels. Generally, you shouldn't choose an H1. There should only be one H1 on the whole page, and it's usually going to be the page title. So I would say go with H2 or below. And this could be a new section on your page, and then you can add some text. And the most important thing probably that you'll need to know about are adding links, which is this icon. And then if you want to add images or documents, you should probably use the media library button instead of the image button. The media library is a new thing in Drupal 9. That is a nice addition where you can view media that's already been uploaded. There was a similar thing in Drupal 7, but this is now part of Drupal core. And you can add a new image or a new like PDF document or whatever through this interface. And you can filter according to these filters on the left. And that's how you would add media. If I wanted to add an already existing media item like this image, I would click on it, hit insert selected, and now that image is in my field and in this formatted text field. So hopefully this should be fairly straightforward. You can change the text format. I don't recommend doing that very much. Same with changing the text color. We have two options, gray 7 and white. Only use white if you've got a dark background, like a black background, or a dark gray, like here. And because those are the approved colors. And then you can add a tooltip, which I don't really want to cover right now, but if you want to test it out, you can. Again, appearance settings. You can add anchor menus. So if you want to have jump links within your page, this is where you would do that. You could add an anchor menu item to this block and give it a title. You can add an icon if you'd like. This icon picker is fairly cool. Please don't pick silly icons. Please be very judicious with the icons that you choose. Let's do alert. We'll do one of these. So that's the icon that I chose. I'm going to click update. And then for the anchor menus, nothing's going to show up for it on this actual block, but we will add it as a separate block. Here we'll go and click anchor menu, and since we configured a block with anchor menu, now this on this page has a link that takes you to that block. So if I save that, now I can click that and it will jump to that section of the page, which is pretty cool. I'm going to remove that for obvious reasons. So I have to scroll down a little, and then this shows up, remove block, click remove. Another thing to be aware of is when you are editing in the layout builder interface, it will commit your changes. It will temporarily save your changes to a temporary save location in the database, and sometimes those will persist. So like if I made some changes but I didn't click save and then I closed down and walked away and I came back later, those changes will persist in this interface, but they won't show up on view. So you could continue to work on what you were working on. The only problem is if multiple people are working on the same page, that can cause some confusion. So I usually recommend people to discard their changes whenever they are in Layout Builder, so that the next person who goes into this layout editor will have a kind of a clean slate to edit their content. So I'm going to click discard changes. Oh, I should have saved them though because I removed that thing. So I'm going to hit cancel. And I'll just check to make sure that item is gone still, which it looks like it is. Oh, but I need to remove these things too. I'll do that later. I think this training video is longer than I intended, but there's a lot of new stuff with Drupal 9 and Webspark 2. So hopefully this has been helpful as an introduction to how to use the new system. There are a lot of resources available for learning the new web standards. I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with the brand guide website. Specifically, you can go to brand elements and guidelines, and there's a whole section for web. And please review what's in here as well. There's a lot of really good information here. We have monthly web community meetings that if you're an editor, you might want to attend. And you can follow on Slack. And that will help you be on top of what's going on with our web community in general. Obviously, you guys have a lot of other things on your plates, but these resources are available for you if you have questions or needs. And I think with that, I'm going to call this video good. Please let me know if you have questions, and we will discuss those. Thanks. Bye.